All right, we are going to call this meeting to order. It is 2:31 p.m. on this 13th of February. I'm still laughing because I haven't mistaken right in 2020 yet. But on February 1st, it took every fiber in my being to write 2 for the month. And I was like, it's just me here to January lasts forever. Yeah, it felt that way. So, roll call. All right, you do not look like Mr. Linnell.
I am covering him. He's in training.
Okay. Let the record show that Mr. Jim Amundsen is here for Mr. Linnell. Mr. Alimi?
Present.
Mr. Stitchick?
Present.
Mr. Rebuffo, welcome back.
Present.
Mr. Van Ho?
The A team is here.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, sure, for sure.
I know, exactly. I am Ms. Mormello, I am present, and Ms. Acton. All right, we do have quorum. All right, Greg, would you mind making the public involvement announcement, please?
All AMATS committee meetings are open to the public. If we have a business item or a presentation by staff or a consultant, and at that point, the committee will be given a chance to discuss the matter, and then after that, the public will be invited to comment.
Thank you. So first item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Van Hout, second by Mr. Johnson. Writing it down. I'm like trying to remember how to spell your last name, Jim, but I got it, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Are there any objections to approval of the agenda? No, hearing none. We are so moved. All right, we have 2 sets of meeting minutes in front of us. We have the 12th of December, 2019.
Move to approve the meeting minutes for 12 December 2019.
Second. Moved by Mr. Van Hout, second by Ms. Acton. Are there any objections? No. All right, and then on to the January 9th, 2020 meeting minutes. Neither I nor Mr. Van Hout were there, so yeah. It's not even- I know, you can still move. Was anybody there? I know, exactly.
I was in attendance, but I wasn't on the board, so
I know.
I can move to approve, but
Second.
Okay. Are there any objections to the approval? And we are so moved. Moving right along. We have our first business item, item 5A, which is Unified Planning Work Program Budget.
We have a minor adjustment to the budget, and this is simply the federal rules say that, if you remember, our budget is broken out into 5 elements. The 100 element, where the TIP and the MTP are, 200 element, which is most of our planning tasks, 300 element, which is related to air quality, 400 element is the modeling and data collection, and the 500 element is training and administration, things of that nature. And the feds allow you to spend up to 110% of what you expected to spend in an element. In other words, the bottom line dollar figure has to remain at the exact allocation, but if you thought you were going to spend $90,000 in the 100 element and you spent $95,000, whatever a dollar figure you spent, if it was over 110%, the amount that's over 110% will not be reimbursed by the federal government. So that would be things, whatever the work effort was, that would have to be covered by municipal funds, whether it's property tax money, etc. So you could spend 300% in a specific task, but as long as the element isn't over 110%, you're good to go. So this is a normal balancing that we do at the end of the federal fiscal year, or the calendar year for the UPWP, to make sure we are under that. And so we were close to about 109% in the 100 element. We did a lot of work on the MTP, and a little bit more than we had planned in certain areas. And so we got to 109%, and again, it's under 110, but as you get towards the final wrap-up and the final reports and more payroll comes in, etc., you get a little nervous. So moving these dollars around, some of the money that was in the 400 element that we didn't utilize in project modeling and the socioeconomic and employment data. We move those dollars up to task 130. That gets us about to 102% in the 100 element, which makes us, we're going to be good. So it is a minor adjustment, and therefore this is something that just is approved by the Technical Advisory Committee, does not go to the Policy Committee for approval. So since we have two Policy Committee members in attendance, this would be as good a time as any to tell them we don't have any other business items, so you probably won't have a meeting in 2 weeks. Because this, we would normally just, at the meeting, we would just inform you of it as an informational item. So at the next Policy Committee, we would bring this to you just as an informational item, but regardless, we're going to get a free 2-week break here. There you have it. Happy to answer questions specifically.
Let the record show that Mr. Lynn moved from us at 2:36 p.m.
I'm late.
Yes, we're almost done.
Are we going for a new record?
Yeah, we are. I know, exactly.
I'm going to pull out the phone book for comments. I'm just going to start in the hard as you go to the end.
Are there any questions for Craig on item 5A, or he's just...
Craig, what are the pitfalls with underspending a element?
No pitfalls with underspending. You know, as long as the dollar figure at the bottom where it says the total allocation for the UPWP has to stay the same. But if you spend 30% in an element, it's not a big deal. You know, we want to get as close to what we budgeted, what we guessed at as we can, so it looks like we have some idea what we're doing. Some idea.
And are being consistent with the work plan.
Yeah, consistent with work plan, we're getting the tasks done that we want to. I think as we, we've done this for a couple of years, I think we're probably putting more into the 400 element that we need to. So we're going to look at that a little closer because we've moved money out of the 400 element in the last couple of years. I think part of it is that we do a lot of modeling effort, but it's generally wrapped around the MTP, and so the modeling gets charged to the project as opposed to the element, the UPWP. So I think we may be able to look at something so that we don't do this in the future.
Do you think there's any potential for AMATS having to pick up the slack since ICER does not seem to be planning to do the household surveys and gathering that household data that goes into the transportation model?
Well, we've been using the stuff from the Department of Labor, right, for the last few times. So, and that seems to be working out fairly well. I haven't heard anyone saying they're not going to continue to do that. But when we first were looking, and this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, when we first were looking at ICER not doing something, we were scrambling to figure out what we're going to do. We certainly looked around at the possibility of contracting with someone to do this sort of report. It's a chunk of change to do. It would be more than what could be done at a UPWP, that's for sure.
Okay.
Any other questions? Are there any public comments on this item? All right, hearing none. Matter lies with committee, and we do get to approve this one.
Move to approve the minor adjustment to the 2019 UPWP.
Second.
Hey, we got AA. All right, are there any objections? All right, hearing none, that is approved. Let the record show that Ms. McNulty joined us.
Just in time to vote, yes.
I know, exactly. And actually, we're through the business item. So now we're on.
I just have to one more stop.
I know, exactly. Project and plan updates, so the 2040 MTP update.
Okay, sorry.
Hi, Aaron Young-Galen with AMATS. I just wanted to give you a quick update. We did have our public meeting for the MTP last week. We didn't get a lot of people to attend, which isn't surprising since long-range transportation planning is not the forefront of what people want to be spending their night doing. But we did try out something. We did have a webinar for people to access. No one attended, of course, because we sent it out the day of the meeting. But the audio quality is very good. So I think in the future, we're going to try and do that more often for other meetings as well.
So is it available to like replay after the fact?
Yeah, we're going to get it to post it online so people can see kind of the presentation, hear the questions, hear the responses and stuff. In the future, we're really going to push using that so people can stay at home and ask their questions and get them responded to at the meeting. So it's a little more interactive than it has been in the past. So it's small little steps we're working on as time goes on. Just so everyone knows, the public comment period closes March 9th. For all the documents for the MTP. We did extend out the public comment period a little after some errors were found at the transportation fair. 6 projects were left off the project list accidentally, so we wanted to give people some more time to be able to look at those projects in conjunction with everything else in the MTP. So don't worry, our schedule is not delayed. The assembly still has until the 10th or later, or 10th-ish of March. So it's right about the time frame when our public comment period closes and when the assembly finishes their action on it. So we're all still on our regular kind of time frame that we'd anticipated. So we've only gotten maybe 4 or 5 comments at this point. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be last minute comments.
Any questions from the committee for Mr. Young and Nayland? Any public comments? Please state your name for the record.
Cheryl Richardson. Do I understand, Aaron, that the Assembly will act one day after public comments are finally received?
Yeah. So the thing is that the Assembly is being asked to provide their comments on the document itself. So it's not the Assembly responding to public comments, but the Assembly giving their own comments on the document that will be combined with all the public comments and everything brought back to the TAC and policy.
So it's the Assembly comments, it's not Assembly action?
Yeah. Technically, the MTP for the AMATS side doesn't require anything other than a resolution from the Assembly saying what their comments are. Just so you know, we are going to be bringing the MTP once it's finally approved back through Planning and Zoning and the Assembly for their action on it as an element of the comprehensive plan. But at that point, it'll be the long-range transportation plan for the municipality of Anchorage.
Okay, so this is the bifurcation between the federal and the local processes.
Correct.
And so the federal process is likely to end at the local level on March 10th, when the Assembly provides its comments, and then we're good to go with the feds.
Not really, because we have to do the comment response summary, and that'll take us about a month, and then we'll come back to the TAC and Policy Committee hopefully in April for final action. And then once they finish their action, whatever it is, hopefully approval, we will send it to the feds, FHWA, FTA, and EPA, for their final approval of the air quality conformity determination and the fiscal analysis of the MTP. Once they give approval, then we're done on the federal side.
I tried to make quick notes. Sorry. The community response will be finished, and then that document goes to the TAC and then policy, and back to the Assembly?
No.
No, not again. So TAC and policy.
And then it goes to
April.
Yes, hopefully, if we only have to have one meeting on it, it'll be April, but if not, April-May timeframe. And then once that's done in April or May, it'll go forward to the federal side to get their approval.
And then in May, by the latest, you expect it to go to the feds?
Yes.
Okay.
And then once that's done, we'll take it through the municipal process for the Planning and Zoning Assembly.
And I guess I was always curious, what if there are contradictions between the municipal long-range transportation plan and the MTP? What if they are different?
That's fine. Most places, if you go to a community outside of Alaska, you will notice that there are different documents. So the local government has their own long-range transportation plan, and it can say different things, which is fine. And the MTP, so technically what we'll do is the next MTP will look at whatever that document is and see what changes were integrated in there, and that can help inform the next MTP. You really should have 2 separate long-range plans, because then you can get the local perspective of things that may be lost on the federal side. Even though we each have to account for it, there's a lot of things that we have from the feds that dictate you shall do this, which may not be solely in line with what the local community wants. So for example, the performance measures we have in the feds, are still pretty focused on vehicular SOV traffic. And maybe the local community wants to be less focused on that. And so it's nice to hear from the local community and have it in writing, have it in an actual plan. This is what we would like, and then it helps inform the MTP.
Thank you. I appreciate knowing this. What is the time frame potentially? I haven't seen a time frame for the local transportation, long-range transportation.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. McNulty, but getting it through planning and zoning, my understanding is about 70 days with everything at the max. And that's to get it through with their comments and the public to review and the agencies to review. I don't know if that can be shortened any. We're just kind of working on, my understanding is it can't be. So about 70 days to get through there. And then we have to get it through the assembly, which I'm not sure how long that'll take them. A couple of months, depending on how many hearings they want to hold or how many comments from the public or anything. So
if I can just add to that, Cheryl, it'll be similar to how we do most like any kind of public hearing, but more specific like how we do like zoning ordinance updates where it'll go to planning and zoning, it'll be introduced, there'll be like a staff report that's made available, they'll get around to all the community councils, there'll likely be a planning and zoning work session, they'll hold their public hearing, it will most likely be 2 public hearings, and they'll hear the public testimony.
So if I might, I know that some folks are interested in a more modern transportation plan that's more balanced across the modes. And, yeah, I mean, some people talk like that. And I'm wondering, what are the opportunities to extend the time frame rather than 2 months, basically, beyond that, to have more public discussion about what should go into the community's long-range transportation?
I think that, I'm going to kind of defer back to Aaron because I think that the time frame that he's described is the actual technical process for once it's gone through the AMATS process and they have a plan that they're going to take forward. I think what you're asking is more if the community wants to see something much different than what is already prepared, how long will that take? I think that's a different question that we have to kind of answer when we get to that point. We can tell you how long the processes take because it's a codified process and there's certain things that have to happen. I think that would extend everything out, so I don't know if you have
Could I clarify what you said, that there is a codified process for after the MTP has gone to the federal agencies, there's a codified process for what happens to the local plan application?
No, there's a codified process for putting something through the Planning and Zoning Commission, how that works. So we have certain requirements to provide certain public notice, so it has to kind of go within our framework. But that's just a planning department process. It has nothing to do with the long-range plan specifically. It's just that when any plan is going through, there's a process.
There is a planning, okay. Perhaps we should talk separately because
Yes.
I'm confused about the federal requirements and then our local needs and requirements.
yeah. So the local needs and requirements come because if it wants to be adopted as an element of the comprehensive plan. So if it wants to be adopted as an
I got
element,
that part.
then it has a lengthy process that's 6 months or so to go through to be adopted. Kind
That's
of the
assuming that the
generic.
plan, I think just that's
Yeah.
the assumption that the planning were ready to go and that we were moving that forward, but the typical process.
If we didn't make any changes to it and just worked it through the process, it would go planning and zoning, do their thing, and then go to the assembly. But if there were changes to be made, but I do want to make sure everyone knows, we are starting an update to the next MTP probably June or so of this year. So you want to make sure you don't delay too long in getting the local plan adopted or they miss the mark for the next MTP update.
Hurry up and wait, yeah, okay, thank you.
John, did you have?
Well, just a little bit, from the assembly side, what we are at this point have agreed to do is assembly members are sending their comments to the clerks and they'll get them to me and Assemblywoman Zolotel, who is now on the policy committee, and Pete Peterson, who's now the alternate on the policy committee. And we're going to go through them, I think, from the middle of next week, consolidate, and have them ready for action on the 25th. So we'll have plenty of time. That's the current plan.
Thanks. Is there any other public comments? Okay, Thank you, Erin. All right, is there any other general information for the good of the order?
I did send around the comment response summary for the non-motorized plan. I also sent the non-motorized plan itself around, so you should have both of those by now. The idea is to have a work session here so that next month we can hopefully be on the same page to be able to release it for public review. So I will be sending out a doodle poll in a little bit to figure out what time works for folks. I do have some paper copies if you want them, but again, it's not released yet, so it's not available, so don't share. I figured the comment response summary is, I didn't make copies of that yet, but you can do that too if you need it, so. Anything to share else on that, Joni?
I think you should pass all the paper copies, I mean, they're so pretty.
I'm about to, but I wanted to.
I'd like a paper copy.
Okay, go get it. Or wants them there.
Oh, and
Dinosaurs that need
sorry,
paper.
wasn't a share,
We're
so,
going to save the dinosaurs and kill the trees.
Craig just sent out the comment response table, so we did have over 350 internal review comments, so most of you have seen, or all of you have probably seen this already, but if not, this might be your first opportunity to look at it. But we did try and do a very extensive internal review because we want to make sure that we're all on the same page before we release it out for public review. And so we got a lot of comments from all of our agencies, a lot of comments from DOT and traffic, and AMATS had a lot of comments. And so hopefully we've addressed those, but I know there were some folks got to look at the table and there were some that were confusing. So I've tried to fix those. So I fixed those errors in the table that Craig just sent you. But I just wanted to tell you, if you have any questions, or if your comments weren't addressed the way you wanted them to be, or if you want more clarification or whatever, just please send me the comment and what your concern is or whatever in the next week or so that I can prep before the work session. So I like to do the work session for you and explain the plan, but then also address your comments. So it's easy for me to do that if you can send them to me ahead of time. So, but otherwise, hope you.
How do you receive those comments? What email?
We've received, so the internal review comments?
No, if people have additional comments or
I haven't
concerns.
received any comments myself yet from this latest email that Craig sent out, but I know that there were a couple folks that spoke with Craig just and had questions about it. So, but yeah, so send them to Craig or whatever. Great, and yeah, we're hoping to do a public release of the draft. We do have a June timeframe. I think that's pretty optimistic. Probably have to do another contract amendment to extend it, but it would be nice to keep it moving forward. And so that's all I have. Hope you guys like it.
Okay. Thank you. This isn't a time for public comment.
I'm sorry, it's not a comment. I was not clear about what comments are being received for what documents. What is being
It's an
discussed?
internal review right now
Of
the non-motorized plan. So
Okay.
it's, yeah, prior to being released to the public.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other general information? So I have a committee comment, I guess committee announcement. Not this month, because I think I actually will be here next month, but next month will be my last time chairing the Technical Advisory Committee. I have submitted my resignation, and my last day at the Municipality of Anchorage is March 20th, 2020. So, yeah. So, yeah, I'm still going to be around for a little while longer. I'm going to try to follow up on my comments, because I did have a lot of comments on the non-motorized plan. I still care. I want to see. I'll comment now, and then I'll have to comment from the private side. I'll have more time on my hands. And I know a lot of people have been asking where I'm going, and right now, actually, I have no plans. I am going to be unemployed for the first time since I was 14 years old. So I'm going to take a little bit of time for myself to figure out where I want to go next. So I'm not leaving state, I'm not leaving the city. I'm just leaving the employment of the municipality. So, any other committee comments?
I have an E2 slot if you want to switch teams.
Don't know about that. Okay. Are there any public comments for the good of the order? All right. Hearing none, we are adjourned at 2:56 p.m.
Yeah, it's just.